Next topic is Rails routing. We have actually some exposure to routing already. Here we're going to actually dive into a bit more detailed routing schemes that we can use. So these are the set of topics we are going to cover. So we're going to cover what routing is all about, and there are two different types of routing, resourceful routing and non-resourceful routing, and later on we are going to see how we can customize resourceful routing. So what is Rails routing? As we talked about before, routing is used to map incoming request URL to controller and action for request handling, and the mapping is specified in config routes.rb file. There are two purposes of Rails routing. We actually using purpose number one mostly is again mapping incoming request URL to controller and action. So for example, if the incoming request says HTTP GET and the /photos/3, and if there is GET photos/ID and photos show, if this is configured in the routes.rb file, and then what we are going to do is, what the Rails is going to do is to dispatch the request to photo controllers to show action. Okay. With ID 3 in params hash. Okay. By the way, as we are going to see later on, whenever you have this symbol, that is going to be considered as a variable. Okay, so that is going to be the value that is coming from the client will be captured as key value pair as a hash. Okay. All right, so that is number one reason why routing is there. The second purpose of routing is for generating helpers. And these helpers are used in Vue. Again, we have actually seen these things when we are going through the code that was generated in scaffolding yesterday, right? Okay. So we have seen like this kind of code in the index.html.elb file. So suppose in controller action, there is a code like this. We basically find the photo number 3 and assign into instance variable photo. Okay, and then in your Vue file, we might in fact have a link to, and this is the name of the link, and then we are actually using this helper. Okay, so this photos_path and photo, this will actually generate this URL from the helper. Okay, so Rails will generate. So this is the helper that you can use in your Vue. The reason we are using this helper is this is a lot easier to use, and this is actually less brittle than just specifying hard-coded value like this, right? Okay. So being able to use this kind of helper in your Vue reduces the brittleness of your Vue and makes your code easier to understand. Okay. So for example, when you actually see Rails break routes, okay, so we are going to actually do this one in the hands-on lab, but I just want to show you. So these are the helpers. Maybe I think I have actually, yeah, so I want to actually use this. So here, when you say photos path, so this photo is basically a helper that gets created. So that is this guy, and that will generate the get HTTP, the HTTP get method, and this is URL pattern, photos and ID. And that will actually call show action of photos. Okay, so you're using these helpers. By the way, the helpers are basically this photo, and this _path and _URL will be added. Okay, it's basically mainly for readability. Okay. All right. There are two types of routes. One is resourceful routes, which is a default, and then there is a non-resourceful route. So resourceful routes are based on RESTful web services model, mainly for supporting CRUD-based operation, create, read, update, and delete. Okay, so it does add 7 default. Actually, it does in Rails 4. It does add 8. As you can see, when I do scaffolding, it actually added 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It does add 8 the routes to your application automatically. Okay. Let me just write this down so that I can exchange this to 8. Okay, in Rails 4. So the way that is done is that you are going to use resources and colon folders. So when you use this resources method, passing the symbol of your the plural of your model, underneath it will create these 8 routes for you. Okay, so that is resourceful routes, which is a default. Non-resourceful route is something that we have added ourselves in our previous exercise. This is basically based on controller and action name. So when so this is an example of non-resourceful route. So here basically when there is a get method and leave search to, okay, this URL, basically I'm actually specifying the controller and action. Same thing here. So this is HTTP method. If you want to have the same thing for get and post, then you can use match, and then you're going to add via get and post. Okay. So here in non-resourceful routes, you are basically mapping incoming URL to controller and action yourself. Okay. Resourceful routes are created for you automatically whenever you have this resources method in your routes.rb file. Okay, so let's talk about the resourceful routes first, and then we're going to talk about the non-resourceful routes later on. Okay, so resourceful routes, these are what gets created. So when you have these resources colon folders in routes.rb file, as I said before, it will create 8 routes in Rails 4. So in Rails 4, it actually added this patch. Okay, in Rails 3, it adds this 7. Okay. So this is HTTP verb method, and this is a path, and this is an action, and this is used for list of folders. And this one, HTTP get and folders and /new, this is for creating. This is actually displaying HTML form that contains that contains a form in which user can actually enter values. And then when the user enter the values and submit, then this post request, post HTTP method and folders, this will create actually new folder in this case. And for get with the item ID like this is for show, and this is for edit, and this is for put. Put is for updating, and the delete is deleting. Okay. The difference between patch and put is that put you have to actually send the complete the record of, in this case, photo. Okay, but patch you can specify only partial, partial version of it, meaning you're gonna actually send only the thing that you want to change. Okay. Okay. So helpers, as I said before, are automatically generated from the resourceful routes. Okay. So these are the helpers that we are talking about. These guys, right? Okay. So when you're using these helpers like a folders path, basically what gets generated underneath is /folders. New folder underscore path is going to generate folders /new. Edit photo path, it will generate this. Okay, and ID is basically the number you're going to pass. Photo path will generate this. Okay. Now the postfix of path and URL. So the difference is that path is going to generate just this pattern. URL is going to generate the complete path. Okay. So these are the helpers, the red colored, the helpers, and then you can just postfix underscore URL or underscore path. And mostly you're going to actually use underscore path in your view. Okay. All right. So as I said before, when you do rake routes, these are the URLs. These are HTTP method, and these are the helpers that are generated, and these are the controller and actions. Okay. All right. So let's do exercise 1. So in exercise 1, we are going to create a routing app file, which I did on my system already, and I did scaffolding. So whenever you do scaffolding, one of the things it does is in fact to add resourceful routes. Okay, so if you take a look at the routes.lb file, you see resources called photos. So by having this one single line, 8 routes are created for you automatically. Okay, so let me just do rakedb as well. Rakedb. Okay, and then we just did the rake routes, and this is what you are going to see. Okay, all right. So these are 8 routes that are automatically created, and I have added the seed, and then I'm going to say rake db seed to execute the db seed code, creating those test data, and then we are going to try Rails console. Okay, so Rails console, and we want to see all the photos. Okay, just making sure that we have 3 photos. Okay, so put photo all yama. Okay, so that is what is expected to be displayed, and now we're going to actually start the server. Okay, and we should be able to see localhost 3000. Yeah. Since we haven't changed the routing, we might as well just do photos like this. Yeah, we haven't changed the routes thing, right? So this is what you're going to see by having /photos, right? Okay. Okay, so now if you take a look at the source of this guy, okay, you are going to see, take a look at the source, and you see a bunch of the helpers. So the helpers that are being used is like a photos new. Well, actually, this is, I'm sorry, these are not the helpers. These are the created from the helpers. Okay, so like a photos 1, photos edit, and photos 2, and photos edit, and photos new. So, this source, HTML source, is created from the helpers. Okay, so that's basically what I want to actually show you. Right, so we saw these things, right, and these are the helpers. If you take a look at the actual indexed HTML file, okay, so we see edit photo and the new photo here. So edit photo. So if you take a look at the let's display the routes one more time. So let's take a look at edit photo, the routes. So edit photo here, okay, that is actually creating photo/id. Okay, so that's why when we actually take a look at the source, right? When you take a look at the source, what we are seeing is this guy, photo/2, and edit. That's actually edit, right? So that's what you're going to see here. Okay. New photo, same thing. So when you actually see the new photo here, it will generate HTTP GET and /photo/new. Okay. So you should be able to actually verify it from the HTML source. Okay. All right. So I'm going to give you guys about the I'm going to give you guys 10 minutes for this exercise, and let's have a 30 minutes lunch time. So we will be back at 12:55. Okay, so 5 minutes to 1 o'clock we'll get started. So we're having lunch 5 minutes earlier. Okay, but we'll start 5 minutes earlier as well. The next topic is how we can customize these resourceful routes. So if you want to use a different controller, then you can specify the controller and images, hash the argument like that. Okay. So instead of photos controller, we'd like to use images controller. overriding named helpers. So, if you want to use a different helper name, then you can use as option. Okay. So maybe you can use resource photos and as images. In this case, instead of photos underscore path and new underscore photo underscore path, it will use image. Okay. And specifying constraints. So you can specify constraints. So here, basically, I'm using regular expression as a constraint. Okay. So this declaration constrains the ID, the parameter. So ID parameter has to be compliant with this regular expression. Okay. If it is not, then it is a 4.4 error. Okay. You can specify a single constraint to apply to a number of routes. Suppose if you have a multiple resources like photos and accounts, you can actually use a constraints method and then passing this hash argument specifying the constraint, and then you can specify the resources that you want to apply these constraints to. Okay. Okay, so let's do exercise 2. So this here here we're gonna just play around with the customization. So change path name. So basically what we're gonna do is just change routes RB file, and then we are gonna do rake routes and to see whether the changed the routes are in fact being reflected. So here I'm going to change path names to brand new for the new case, right? Okay. Save the change, and now if I rake routes, it will, oops, did I change it? Oh, here we go. Okay, yeah, so it changed. Okay, brand new here. Okay, so basically this is the name of the helper. So here, new. Okay, and then this is the oh, actually this is actually the name of the action. Okay. No, I'm sorry. So this is actually the name of the URL pattern. Sorry about that. So if the URL name pattern used to be new in this case, okay, so you are basically changing this URL pattern to a different one. Okay, so everything else stay the same. It's just change the URL pattern. Okay, so this new is actually URL pattern to you want to change to brand new. Okay. All right. The next one, yeah. And now if you actually refresh the page, what we are going to see is yeah, so when, you probably refresh the page, and then you should actually see this URL that was actually generated is actually reflecting the brand new. Okay, and if you click it, then you are going to see in fact brand new as a URL. Okay. The next one is change path. So here, basically I'm changing all these things as a path. Okay, so here, yeah, I'm gonna just let you guys do it. Yeah, so new path, and this is applied to only to show an index. In this case, basically this resource for routes only applied to show an index. So what you're gonna actually see is just a show an index version of it, and rest of it are not going to get created. Okay. The route with except, so that is the only case, and this one is only except case. So except show an index, all the other routes are supposed to be created. Okay, and 2.5 is this is the what we have seen in the control in the slide. So you'd like to change the controller to images, so that's what you're going to see. As images, so here we are basically changing the helpers. Okay. Specifying constraints. So here, let me just try this. So I'm gonna just try the ID has to be this format. And if I display the routes, and it should actually reflect it. Okay. Any place that ID is supposed to be provided as part of the path, it should actually constrain with this regular expression. So if you try to photos 1, that should not work, because the pattern is indicating that the ID has to start with capital letter and capital letter followed by another capital letter and then number. Okay, so if I try photos 1, it shouldn't work. Okay, no match on photos 1. So what we can try is you can try the small letter, and that shouldn't work either, right? Okay, so AB1, that shouldn't work either. However, when we do capital letters like CC1, then couldn't find a photo with CC1. Let me see. Yeah, so at least the routes not found problem is not there. Okay, so at least it's actually taking the correct route, and then it's trying to find the record, and obviously there is no record for this, right? So it's basically just indicating that routes has at least successful. All right, so I'm going to give you guys about 7 minutes to try exercise 2. Next one is adding more RESTful resources. Okay. So you're not limited to this 8 in Rails 4 default routes that RESTful routing creates by default. You may add additional routes that could be applied to collection or individual members of the collection. Okay. By collection, I'm talking about URL that actually representing collections. So these are collections, these are collections. Whenever you have an ID, that is a member. Okay. So that is members and collections. So let me actually explain what I mean by that. So adding a member route. In order to add a member route, you can say the resource routes, and then you can add this line of code. So for member, do get preview and get comment. What that means is that now you can actually have, this is the member, right? So whenever there is a member, and if there is a preview with a get, okay, that will route to preview action of the controller. Okay, so suppose if you add preview action in your controller, and if you want to provide a route, this is the way you do it. Okay, and this is for member route. And if there is only one, then you can use this syntax: get preview and on member. Okay, so this is the case that you have only one member route that you want to configure, and this is when you have a multiple. Okay, so this is member route. The next one is collection routes. So collections are for the these kind of things, photos search. So the collection gets applied on get, and this. Okay, there are 3 cases where collections are used. Okay, so here again, yeah, well, again, basic collection, I'm talking about just photos in this case. So if you want to use, if you want to have a search method, okay, a search action in your controller, and you want to let the users to use the collection URL like this, and then you are going to add a collection. Okay, collection do and HTTP get method search. Okay, so this photos/search will result in invoking search action in the controller. Okay, and also it will create helpers as well. So it will create search photos and underscore URL underscore path. So basically, it's going to create search photos. Okay, so if you routes, and that's what you're going to see. And if you only one, you can just use this simpler syntax. All right, so I'm going to just explain exercise 3, and then we're going to actually move forward. Okay, so here if I add this member collection, okay, And then if I do this rake routes, and you are going to see this preview photo and comment photo, and again, it's going to call preview and comment. Okay. Same deal for collection. So once you add it, and then you're going to see the new routings are added to the routes. Okay, so that's exercise 3. Pretty straightforward. Now let's move forward with the exercise 4. So controller namespaces and routing. What is a controller namespace? Sometimes you might, suppose if you're building reasonably good size application and if you have a lot of controllers, right? You might want to in fact have the hierarchical structure in your controllers. Okay, so you might in fact have, suppose if you're building some kind of application, you might have hundreds of controllers, and some of those are in fact related, right? So you might in fact actually have controllers that belong to, for example, like an admin namespace. So basically, you are trying to create the controllers in a hierarchical structure. Okay. So here so I can actually have a controllers on the admin directory, or there could be another directory that contains other controllers. Okay. So Rails support controller namespace include generation of namespace controllers via controller or scaffold generator. And it provides a name admin space to these controllers if you're using this admin, okay, as an example. So basically, it's going to use this namespace once admin the namespace is used. And one more thing in regard to routing is that it's going to generate namespace-based routing information. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Oops, sorry. So this is the way that I am going to create a controller, Rails generate controller, and instead of just the name of the controller, I am going to specify it in the namespace manner. So I like to create a post controller, but under admin namespace. And then index and show, those are actions that should be created under post controller. Okay, so you can see in fact it creates this app controller /admin /post, right? So that's the way it's going to create the namespace controller. So if you in fact take a look at if you take a look at the directory structure, on the controllers you see admin directory, and underneath you will see your controller. And even in your controller, it will use this the module admin : post controller. And also the views are supposed to reflect that directory structure as well. So we have an admin directory here. Okay. Okay, and then this is a case that this is this is the case for creating a scaffolding. The same deal. Okay, scaffolding will create not only a controller but also the views and everything. Okay. Okay, so now the same deal. So it actually create the controller generated via scaffold. The scaffolding. All right, so this is actually related to routing. So routing, it will create the resources, pictures, and then there is a namespace. So it does create a namespace :admin, that's the name of the namespace, and then do resources pictures. Okay. And if you do take a look at so this is the one that gets created, right? Okay, and this is a 3 lines instead of a single line, but the same deal. So now if you say rake routes, you can see the path contains admin namespace, and also helpers also reflecting that admin namespace. Okay. All right, so that is exercise 4. So you can try just the controller, so for that one is just controller, and you might as well just try the for that 2, which is a scaffolding. Okay, so just choose for that 2 instead of for that 1. Okay. And and then you can see it does provide all these namespace-based URL patterns. Okay. Yeah, so do just 4.2 and the exercise 3 dot exercise 3 you can just do 3.1 or 3.2. Okay, one of those. Okay, so I'll give you just 5 minutes to do these two exercises, 3 and 4. Okay, so far what we have covered is resourceful routes based on RESTful based the access. Now we are going to take a look at non-resourceful routes. So when to use non-resourceful routes, you want to use the non-resourceful routes when you need to map arbitrary URLs, okay, meaning URLs that do not conform to resourceful routing. Basically resourceful routings are in the form of basically I can use this one resourceful routings are based on they follow this pattern, right? But if you happen to have a pattern that do not follow this resourceful routing, that's when you want to use non-resourceful routes. Okay. Now you should use resourceful routing whenever possible, but there could be some cases where the simpler routing could be achieved using non-resourceful routing. Okay, for example, when mapping legacy URLs to new, Rails actions. Okay, so non-resourceful routing is something that we have done with the match. So you say match, and then if I want to map, if the URL is something like this, and I want to have the first one is matching to a controller, and the next one is in the action, and the last one is an ID. And the HTTP method is going to be either get or post, and this is actually the non-resourceful routing example. Okay, so basically, in order to create non-resourceful routes, you basically supply a series of symbols that Rails maps to parts of an incoming HTTP request. So this URL, each part will be mapped into what you specify here. Okay, so for example, if an incoming request /footer/show/1 is accessed by this route, by the way, the routing happens in a way that if it finds the route that matches it, then that's what it's going to use. If there is no matching, then it will go all the way to the end. So typically what you're going to have this one is at the end of your routes. Okay, you do not want to have this one in the front of this resourceful routing. You want to actually have it at the end, basically. Okay. So because it hasn't matched any previous route in the file, then the result will be to invoke a show action of the photos controller and to make the final parameter 1 as a params ID. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to explain this parenthesis as well as so this parenthesis is optional. Okay. So the URL does not have to have this part. If there is no parenthesis, then it has to have it. Otherwise, it's 404 error. Okay. So that's something I'm going to talk about in the following slide. So this is basically dynamic segment. So in this case, anything that is not you can set up as many dynamic segments within the regular route as you like. Anything other than controller and action will be available to the action as part of the params. So suppose if there is an incoming request like a /folders/show/1 and 2, it will be dispatched to show action with if there is a non-resourceful route like this. This 1 will be mapped into ID, and this 2 will be mapped into params user ID. Okay, so you should be able to access param ID. That should actually return 1, and params user ID will return 2 in this case. Okay, so if this is matched with this non-resourceful route like this, okay, then you can access these values with the params ID and params user ID. Static segment. Now, if you do not you can specify static segment. If you do not have the colon, that means that's a static, meaning you have to have it. Okay. If you have a colon, that means a dynamic segment, meaning whatever value that is as part of the URL will be captured as a params. Okay. But if you don't have a column, then you have to have this. Otherwise, it's going to be 404 error. Okay, so in this example, suppose there's a URL photos show 1/with user /2. The params is going to be controller will be photos, actions will be show, and ID equals 1, and the user ID equals 2. Okay, but this is not a variable, so there is nothing to map. Okay, there is no parameter for this. It's a static. Query string. So you can use the query string and you can capture that as well. So when you actually have a query string like this, okay, it will be captured as param user ID. Okay, yeah. Defining defaults. So you can specify you do not need to explicitly use the control and action symbols within a route. You can supply them as default. So here, basically, if there is a GET request and I want to actually set default. The format is JPG. So in this case, it will always, when you just say photos /12, I mean, when a user access photos, it has to be JPG file or some kind of graphics file, right? So in that case, you can always set the default format to JPG. Okay, so you can set the default like that. All right, so let's do exercise 5. So exercise 5 is the first one is bound, and then the second is dynamic, and the third is static. Okay, so if you go to photos shows 1, you will actually experience routing error because there is nothing like this. Okay, we don't have anything like photos and show. Okay, so we will have a routing error. Okay. So in that case, we are going to add this guy as you have done in our previous exercise. Once you add it, and then when you do like this, when you do break routes, and you're going to see here. Okay. Now, when you do photo show that 1, then you're going to actually see that particular photo. Okay. And dynamic segment. So basically these are all examples of dynamic segment. Okay, so in addition to ID, we want to capture the next one and in the form of user ID. Okay, so now if I display the rake routes, then that's what we are going to see. So now if I try to show 1, it will not work because it expects to see another number, right? So now if I give another number, then it will display, I mean the second number is going to be ignored in our logic, and it will just use the first one to display the first photo. Okay, and add another method to, so in this case we like to actually add another method like a show special. Okay, and we're going to just use the param ID, user ID, so that we are going to use the second number to find the photos. Okay, all right. So in this case, when the user sent this guy, we are going to actually take this guy. Yes, we are going to actually use the show special method, and then we're going to use the second one as the user ID in our logic here, right? Okay, we are basically using user ID, the second number, to find the photos. Okay, so it will display the photo number 2. Okay, so this is a static segment. So instead of colon user ID, we are going to just use the static segments, meaning URL has to have this user ID after action and after ID. Otherwise, it's a 404 error. Okay, so we can take a look at the rake routes. And now if you try to refresh the page, you're going to have a routing error because there is nothing that matches it. So we have to have this user with user in the middle, and then it should work. Okay. Query string. So also query string also should be actually captured as a params. That's basically. So in this case, we are actually sending user ID equals 3, and then that user ID will be used to find the photos. In this case, it will display photos 3. Defining defaults. So here, yeah. So here, Oh, okay. So in this case, you're basically when there is a photos ID, we're gonna just to show. Yeah, this is probably not the good example. So I want to actually show something like the format. Okay. But anyway, so I'm gonna give you guys about 10 minutes to try this exercise. So let me just write that down. Exercise 5.5 needs to be updated. Yeah, so as we have done in the resourceful routes, you can also use as logout and as delete in this case, so that you can have a helper. You can create the helper for non-resourceful routes. Okay, same deal as in the case of resourceful routes. HTTP verb constraint. Okay, so in Rails 3, this match, when you have just this match, it was a valid syntax, meaning this will apply to every HTTP method. In Rails 4, this is not a valid syntax. Okay, so in fact, if you remove this guy, you will have an exception. So in Rails 4, you have to specify HTTP method. Okay, so you can just change this one to get. Okay, instead of having this guy. Or if you want to use match, then you are going to say via get. And if you want to apply this path for multiple HTTP method, then you are going to say via get and post. Okay, so this is the valid syntax in Rails 4, and without this is invalid in Rails 4. Route globing. So you can actually specify like a wildcard. Okay, so if you say match /star other, then basically it would match anything after photos. Okay, so it would match photos 12 or photos long path to 12 into other. So other will be, params other will be just set to 12, or in this case, it will set with this. Okay. The same deal with here. Okay, so in this case, anything between books and title, the last one. So this is probably captured as a title, and this is actually books. In this case, these some sections will be captured as a params section. Okay. Okay, redirection. So we have this is the way you can actually redirect as well. Okay. And the routing. So basically, you can specify redirection in the routes.rb file as well. So that's basically what we are talking about. Route. Yeah, so we have done this route setting in our sample applications before, so nothing surprising here. All right, so exercise 6 is non-resourceful routes. So let's take a look at the exercise 6. So this as delete, so in this case, remove and destroy and as delete. So basically, we are creating delete as a new helper. This one is, again, you have to have this via if you're using match. Okay, otherwise, or you can actually change this one to get, or you can have another line with post in this case. Okay, and this is the route globing. And this is redirection. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to try these exercises. I mean, just to understand the fact that these are possible. I don't want you to kind of spend nitty-gritty the code for now. As long as you know that these kind of capabilities are available, that's probably good enough for now. Okay. All right. So let me make sure the